All right. It is time to do this again with a dynamic and exciting speaker, presenter. Um, Her name is Julie Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimmy Newsom. I will be giving you a quick run through of the Remo platform if you have not been here before. Kelly, hello, young lady. I miss you. So I'll be catching up with you hopefully soon. As you can see, there's a few improvements to the platform. If you've been on here before, if not, I'm going to give you a quick rundown, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to our fearless leader, Gary. Um, There's a difference when it comes to this platform. You were just in what we call conversation mode, where you can move around from table to table and have conversations with individuals at that table. This particular structure allows for 6 people to be at the table. We can also do them where there's 4 people and 2 people, but we have 6 people on this one. In the upper right hand corner, you're going to see a little calendar icon. If you click on that icon, it gives you a rundown of the run of show, what we're planning for the day. Sometimes it might be a little off, like today. I think the times got a little confused, so we moved things back a little bit. But nevertheless, we're still going to have an amazing time together this evening. One thing I love about this platform is not only do you get to hear an incredible presenter do her thing or his thing, but you also get a chance to talk to each other and meet each other and build those relationships, which is great for the world of business development. To the right, you see the chat. Where you can actually chat with everybody in the room. You can leave a message for everybody in the room. You can chat with the table you were at, and this goes for here and conversation mode. And you can also find someone individually to send a message to. All the way to the right of the chat is the Q&A. That's where you can put an actual question in. I like you to put your questions for Julie into the Q&A section, because you can vote those questions up based on the questions you see. So they're separate from the chat, so we can have a more of an effective conversation and get your questions answered. So I'm excited about that. Let me see, is there anything else we need to know about this platform? All the way at the bottom to the right, you'll see some icons. There's a hand clapping, there's a thumbs up, and then there's a that was a pretty good idea. You can hit those to be interactive and let you know that Julie's definitely hitting some great points for you that might be surprising, maybe provocative, or maybe just right what you needed to hear at the moment. So definitely interact, definitely chat with each other. And then we're going to move back after the presentation back into networking mode, so you can continue to network, maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that Julie covered today at this event. And, of course, talk to her directly. Now, another thing you'll notice on the floor before I turn it over to Gary is in the 4 corners, there are what we call booths with banners. And those banners are there for you to connect with IBD Pros if you're not already a member, and also to find out some of the things that Julie's doing. I know on the left side, you can check out her website. And to the right, she has some resources, including her amazing podcast and her latest book. So definitely connect with her, definitely connect with each other. I'm excited that you're all here. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite to the stage Mr. Gary Anzalone. Please come on down, sir. That's millions of people screaming right now.
Jimmy.
You got it.
Thank you everyone for attending, and I think we're going to have a really great presentation today. I do want to before I introduce Maria, who will bring in Julie. Before I do that, I want to make a few announcements. We have had a very full year this in 2021. Lots have happened, lots of board activity, lots of programs. We have raised probably around $25,000 for charities. We have done lots of networking, lots of connecting. We've had social events. Our last event was the Winter Social, and we had a really great turnout. I have to say that like most good people in business development, our timing is perfect, because if we would have done that a week later, there would have been no one showing up. So anyway, we're pretty lucky to have this format to stay connected. And as soon as we can, we are planning to do live events. So, but the one thing that's good about this is we can do Boston, New York, and other events across the country, and people will benefit from that those connections. The live events will be more at the chapter level, and we are looking forward to launching the Boston chapter. If you look on our website, we've made a change. It was previously just a New York website. Now you click onto national and you can select one of two chapters, New York or Boston. Maybe there'll be a rivalry, but I think there's going to be a lot of teamwork. So as far as our speaker, let's get to it. I want to introduce Maria, who is one of the founding members of the Boston chapter. And Maria does business development for WB Engineers and Consultants. She has over 10 years experience in the AEC industry and the vice president of our chapter in Boston. So thank you for your energy, Maria. Thank you for your attention. And I'll leave it to you.
Thanks, Gary. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce everyone to Julie Brown. Julie is a sought-after speaker, networking expert, and business strategist. She's the author of This Shit Works, a no-nonsense guide to networking your way to more friends, more adventures, and more success, as well as the host of This Shit Works, a podcast dedicated to all things business and entrepreneurship. Julie introduced me to business development, and she gave me my first role working together at Tachi. A friend and a true mentor. We've had the distinct pleasure of working with Guy and Gary over the past year to launch the Boston chapter of IBD Pros, and are super excited to be here tonight with you all. So with that, I'll hand it over to Julie.
It's just like, how do I get to the stage? I hope somebody put me up here. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Okay. You are my first speech of 2022. I mean, we're like 12 days into it. So you are getting, this is like the Thunder Show. Like you're getting it all. Apologies if it's too much. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do a little keynote. It's going to take like 45 minutes. I swear to God, you will not be bored. So I'm just going to jump right into it. And then afterwards, you can ask me as many questions as you want. And you can, if you have my cell phone number, if you have a question, you can just text it to me. And afterwards, we'll do networking and we'll have so much fun. Okay. So hold on 1 second while I share my screen. Okay. I hope everybody can see my screen. If you can't see my screen, Jimmy, just give me a text. Today, what we're talking about is a roadmap to adventure and success in business development. It's a little play off of the title of my book, which was This Shit Works, a no-nonsense guide to networking your way to more friends, more adventures, and more success. I'm going to start off with a story. This is the Victoria Falls Bridge, half of which is in Zimbabwe and half of it is in Zambia. All of it straddles the mighty Zambezi River. From the top of the bridge to just before the water's edge is 111 meters or 364 feet. If you were to jump off of that bridge, the distance, 111 meters and 364 feet, would equate into a 4-second dead drop. In October of 2019, I did that drop. I did that 4-second dead drop strapped to the body of a woman that I had met through a thoughtfully written email by one of my other friends. That is the power of the strategic introduction. Because of this story and so many more over my 22 years in this industry, I wrote the book, This Shit Works, Networking Your Way to More Friends, More Adventures, and More Success, because I believe that the people you meet will change your life. And networking is how you meet those people. So let's jump into it. Let's think about your existing network. If you know that networking will change your life, what does your existing network look like? So let's analyze it. Okay, I don't know how many people I know. I don't know what my network looks like. I don't know the strength of my relationships. Let's do a little activity. You're going to have to do this afterwards because I'm not going to give you enough time to do it right now, but make a list of all of the people that you know. Have you actually ever done that? Have you actually said, how many people do I know? On that list, include all of your professional connections, other architects, consultants, builders, engineers, owners, brokers, owners, project managers, other various, deal members, people in industry organizations such as IBD Pros, alumni networks that you might be involved in, all of your friends, your family, your friends of family, your past clients. This is your existing network that you already have. You always know more people than you think you do. Now, How do we assess the strength of those? So let's categorize that big list into 4 circles, 4 buckets. The first one would be your top 5. Now, I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard before. You've all heard this saying, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. So do a little bit of navel gazing right now. Who are the 5 people that I spend the most time with in a business development capacity and in networking capacity? Are they the kind of people who are invested in my success? Are they the kind of people who help me be more successful? Is that top 5 a homogenous group of ideas, or does that 5 challenge me and force me to think of things in a different way? If you are married, your husband, your wife, your boo, your schnookums, whatever you want to call it, they need to be a part of your top 5. Because, and this came from an article that Warren Buffett wrote a number of years ago, who said the most successful people in the world have one thing in common, and that one thing is a partner, a spouse who is as invested in their success as they are in their own. So think about that. Can you put your husband, your wife in your top 5? Do they allow you to be successful? Is there parity in your ability to be successful? The second category is your party people. Now, it's not because this is the people you party with. It's like if you were going to have a party for your business or for your successes, who are the next 15 people you would automatically rattle off because they are invested in your success? They want to see you succeed. They celebrate your achievements and your wins. The next circle is the circle of 50. I call it the robust connections. Do you have 50 people right now where if you heard about a potential project coming up, do you have 50 people you could text, call, or email to say, hey, have you heard about this project? What can you tell me? Do you have 50 people where if you needed a strategic introduction, you could say, hey, I would really love an introduction to this person. Would you make that introduction for me? Do you have 50 people who are always there to offer you information about what's happening in the industry? And then the fourth circle is your circle of 100 or more. Just because it's out there sort of on the fourth circle and that fourth bucket furthest away from you doesn't mean that this isn't a superpower category. MIT actually did a study a number of years ago called the strength of weak ties, because we can get so much information about this outer network. You might have heard the statistic that 85% of jobs are filled through networking. This is true. You might not have heard the sub-statistic that 72% of those 85% of jobs are filled through the outer circle. So if your company is looking to hire, which everybody is right now, you need to look into this outer circle. If for some reason you lose your job, when you are looking for a job, tap into that outer circle. It's not always going to be your top 5 or your top 50. More often than not, it's going to be in the outer circle. And I say and more because I do believe that you should have more people in your network than these numbers. Now, there's some science behind this. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Robin Dunbar or Dunbar's number, but Robin Dunbar is an evolutionary psychologist and anthropologist. And he did studies of non-human primates in their natural habitat to see how many stable social relationships non-human primates could maintain. Now, through his studies, he determined that non-human primates can maintain 50 stable social relationships. And that number, 50, is tied into the size of the neocortex in the brain. Well, we as humans have much larger neocortexes than non-human primates. So that number 50, when it's translated into the size of the human neocortex, is 150. So we as humans can maintain 150 stable social relationships. I can do the math. You looked at those circles and you were like 5 plus 15 plus 50 plus 100 is more than 150. Yes, because Robin Dunbar's studies were done in 1992, way before we had reliable internet, communication by email, way before social media and all the different ways we have to stay connected. So if we know that without any of these tools, we can maintain 150 stable social relationships, then 150 is the minimum you should have, because you can do that without any of the tools available to us today. So think about that. Do you have 150 people in your network right now or more that you know that you have relationships with that you can reach out to? So that's the science behind the circles. If you don't have 150 people, if you like, you were going to write down, I'm sure you do. But if you wrote it down, you're like, I have 120, no big deal. That's what networking's for. So we're going to fill out those circles for you. So how to network to meet the people who will change your life? Okay, before that, and the reason why I put this slide here is because I get so many questions about, can introverts be as good networkers as extroverts? What if I'm an introvert? And the truth is, no one is 100% introverted and 100% extroverted. We all fall on this ambivert spectrum and then lean towards one side or the other. And one is not better than the other. The truth is, introvert versus extrovert is all about where we get our energy from. So introverts going into an event, a networking event, that drains their battery. That takes a lot of effort for them. Extroverts, like myself, who lean toward the extrovert side of the spectrum, when I go into an event, I can go in exhausted and leave refreshed. I can leave with more energy because that's actually how I gather energy. So it is about where you get your energy from. But also, introverts are, I believe, they're so much better at networking because they're so much better at doing the most important thing in networking, which is listening. Unfortunately, introverts get such a bad rap because there's so many articles and books written to try to change introverts, like networking for introverts, how to break out of being an introvert, how to come out of your shell. But there are no books that say, hey, extroverts, why don't you shut the fuck up and start listening? Okay, so introverts get a bad rap. I wish societally that the power of introverts would be more celebrated. The truth is, introverts can be much better networkers than extroverts. So I just want to get that out of the way before I go into the tools. So for me, I think there are 5 really important networking tools, and these tools work for a virtual world, they work for an in-person world, and they work for a hybrid world. So it doesn't matter where we are, these tools remain the same and work just as good in either scenario. The first tool is yourself, okay? People do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. If they don't like you, if they don't know you, if they don't trust you, they are not going to do work with you. So number 1, you are your best business development tool. Now, in a couple of years ago, it was probably like 5 years ago, before I wrote the book, I created this thing called the list yourself approach. It's exactly what you think it's literally called the list yourself approach. You make a list. I'm really into lists, if you haven't noticed. You make a list of all of the things that make you that have nothing to do with what you do for a living. So on that list, if you are an architect, I can't say architect. If you're a BD person, I can't say BD person. If you're an engineer, I can't say engineer. It's the list of you that doesn't involve what you do for a living. So, okay, so my list would be, I am a wife, I'm a dog mom, I'm a skier, I'm a marathon runner, I'm a mountain biker, I'm a world traveler, I'm a wine snob, I love tequila, love true crime podcasts, addicted to my Peloton. These are the things that I do outside of my working hours. And it's because we as Americans, I created this because we as Americans define ourselves by our profession. When somebody says, what do you do? It's the first question, always. It doesn't matter if you're at a networking event, you're at your neighbor's house and there's a couple that you've never met before. And the first question you always ask is, what do you do? Because in America, we're just so consumed by being defined by what we do. But in Europe, that question actually doesn't exist. It's more framed as, who are you? Tell me about you. So if we know that people do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust, we need to get to who are you over what do you do. This list yourself approach allows you in networking situations, at dinner parties, in Zoom meetings, it doesn't matter where you are, to create dopamine inducing conversations. Dopamine, we all know what it is. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter in the brain. It sits in the pleasure center of our brain. It helps with happiness, euphoria, our ability to socially connect, our ability to connect with others. That's what dopamine does for us. And you as a person have the ability to increase the level of dopamine in a person's brain when you are talking to them by asking the right questions, by asking dopamine inducing questions. Here's the kicker. You can also decrease the level of dopamine in a person's brain by asking 2 questions. Those 2 questions are, the most dopamine crashing questions are, how are you? And what do you do? Those are the questions you always ask. Those are the first questions you always ask at any event. Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, what do you do? Dopamine is like coming down like an elevator, like all the way down to the basement. You have just ruined it. You can elicit a dopamine response, a spike in the person's brain if you ask dopamine inducing questions based off of your list, like, hey, what was the last vacation you went on pre-COVID? Hey, what's the first vacation you're going to go on when we're all allowed to travel again? Hey, are you binging anything on Netflix right now? What was the best book you read? What are you binging on Netflix right now? Before this call, I called Lauren, who's in the audience. Hey, Lauren. And we were talking, she was talking about how in her office, I don't know if anybody's ever watched The Actor's Studio with James Lipton, but he always asks the 10 questions. And she did this exercise with people in her office, these 10 questions. And the responses you get and what you learn about people when you ask really good dopamine inducing questions is so important, because that leads to know, like, trust. That leads to commonality. It increases the surface area with which you are allowed to connect with people. It sparks connection with the other person. So also, for people who are introverts, if you are like, I'm not going to a lot of events or whatever right now, there is an untapped power of the out of office message to show who you are versus what do you do. And I've been using this tool for a while, and I tell you it works. And I tell you my out of office messages get forwarded to other people. So this was one that I did this year. In October, for my anniversary, I went to Grenada. So my out of office message, instead of the reply that says out of office, the reply said, do you like pina coladas? And then it said, I'm currently out of the office on a much needed tropical vacation. Doesn't that sound great? Why don't you take a moment and have your own mini vacation right now? Here's a link to my Beach Vibes Spotify playlist. Here's a pina colada recipe. And then this picture of this couple in a hammock was actually a GIF that swung back and forth, which was very mesmerizing. And then at the bottom, I'm obviously not responding to you. Here's my assistant. Do you know how many people listened to my Beach Vibes playlist? Do you know every time they listen to that playlist, they think of me? This is how you infuse who you are into the everyday. This is how you infuse who you are into what do you do that makes you stand out. The second thing, the second tool is your existing network. We talked about this in the beginning. You probably know more people than you give yourself credit for. Use them. Use that existing network. Make a list of all of those people and then look at it and be honest with yourself. When is the last time I talked to these people? If you have 100 people on your list, am I talking to the same people over and over and over again? When was the last time I talked to people that are on that list? Maybe it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Why? Reconnect with your existing network. And then use your existing network. Use that robust 50 to ask for strategic introductions to other people. And then, okay, so because of this, I forgot I had this in this slide. There's this thing in social network theory called triadic closure. Triadic closure is if you are introduced to somebody you don't know by a mutual friend, your relationship with that person grows at a faster, more rapid rate because you share a mutual connection. It's like that person's already been vetted by your friend. It's kind of like the friends of my friends are my friends thing. So when you are introduced to somebody you don't know by somebody you know, your ability to get to know, like, trust it's faster. So think about, okay, how can I ask for strategic introductions from my existing network? And then don't forget, when you're done with a client, when you've done something for your client, don't forget to reconnect with your past clients afterwards. Don't forget to check back in and say, how did that project go? Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. We can't forget that it's easier to get a repeat client than it is to get new work. So the untapped power of 5 simple words. So if you look at your list and you're like, shit, I haven't talked to that person in 4 years. I never checked in with that person to see how they're doing during COVID. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There is no space of time in between there's no amount of time in between when you last talked to somebody that cannot be bridged by 5 simple words. I've been thinking about you. That's it. So if there's anybody on your list and you want to reconnect with them and you're a little afraid and you have a trepidation, just send them an email and say, I've been thinking about you. I heard this song. It made me think of you. I saw this picture of us. It made me think of you. I read this article. It made me think of you. Somebody said this thing the other day. It made me think of you. I heard somebody, they sounded just like you. I thought it was you. I turned around and it wasn't you. I've been thinking about you. That's it. Power reconnection is amazing. So the third one is organizations. Congratulations, you're already here. Like you are doing it. But what other organizations could you tap into? Alumni groups, for example. Peer groups. This is a peer group. We are all business development professionals. We need this. We need to have a group of people who do exactly what we do so we can ask questions and learn from each other and get strategic introductions from each other. Peer groups are so very important. When I first started professional speaking, I didn't know one other professional speaker. And so I joined the National Speakers Association. And then I suddenly had a peer group of people who understood what I was going through, could help me navigate different things about being a professional speaker. We need peer groups. This is why IBD Pros is so important. And then obviously in other industry organizations for us to build connections with. The key though is to not just be a member, it's to get involved. When I sit in my clients' offices sometimes, or right now when I sit in their, Google Meets or, team meetings or Zooms or whatever, they're always shocked by how many people I know that are, CEOs or CFOs or running companies. And a lot of those connections that I have is because I spent so much time donating my time to boards. I sit on so many different boards. So I'm not saying you have to be on a board, but I'm saying if you're part of an organization, get involved. That's really where the rubber meets the road. Organizations offer the untapped power of the shared experience. And to sort of like bring it back to like every day, I used to own a Jeep. And there's this thing, and if anybody, I don't know, I can't see you guys, so maybe we can talk about this after, but there's this thing called the Jeep wave. And you just wave to people because they own a Jeep too. It's a shared experience. You don't know them, but you're like, oh, hey. That's the Jeep wave. That's the shared experience of simply buying the same car. But all of a sudden, they're your friend because they also are smart enough to own a Jeep. It's why I feel a kinship every time I'm behind a car that has a 26.2 sticker on it because I'm a marathon runner. So you ran 26.2, I ran 26.2. We did that shit together. We didn't do it together. It's the power of the shared experience. And it's also why hashtags are super important. It's like Peloton Boston. Like I love my Peloton communities. I'm part of Peloton Boston, Peloton Dog Moms, Peloton Winos, like everything. Like the power of the shared experience, the power of finding somebody who has something in common with you, which is why the list yourself approach is so important. So the fourth one, obviously, is networking events. So every month, like make it a priority, create a monthly calendar, like look at all of those industry organizations, peer organizations, alumni organizations, and say, what events are available to me this month where I can meet new people or I can reestablish connections with people in my network. Create that monthly calendar and then say, okay, in addition to that, I'm going to meet new people in a more strategic way. I'm going to schedule meet and greets with the people I meet at events. I'm going to ask for strategic introductions from my network, and I'm going to set up meetings with those people. So networking events, yeah, they can be industry events. They can be like organized events, or they can be smaller one-on-one events. But you have to do it every month. And then also, I just can't say it enough, reconnecting with existing and past clients. And I would say you have to do a minimum of 2 per week. So I keep a checklist on my desk, a business development checklist on my desk that I made for myself. And part of that checklist is, have I had 2 face-to-faces this month, this week? I apologize. And that face-to-face can be a networking event like this. It can be a Zoom. Prior to COVID, it was like, have I had coffee with somebody and a lunch? Have I gone to an event and had a lunch? Minimum of 2 per week. Now, a little bit of a deep dive on networking events, because we might be a little rusty with networking, in-person networking events, because we haven't done it, and because we're in our 3rd calendar year of a pandemic. Before every event, try to do a little bit of research on who's going to be there. Ask the administrators of the event, the organizers of the event, if you can have an attendee list so that you know who's going to be there. Reach out to people in advance and say, hey, are you going to this event? You want to go together? You want to meet up beforehand? Like, use the event as an excuse to do that reach out to people and say, hey, are you going to this event? I'm going. You want to go together? You want to have a drink beforehand? Like, whatever. Don't just use the event. Don't just go to the event. Use the event as a way to reconnect with people before the event. Then when we are at events, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes you walk into a room and you're like, shit, like everybody seems to be like paired up, and you're like, who am I going to talk to? How am I going to get into these people, into these groups of people talking? There's this thing called, and I read it in a book, and the author referred to it as bagel versus croissant. So if you look at groups of people talking and they are all sort of like this, I don't know if you can see my hands. I hope you can see my hands. They're in a circle talking, all of the shoulders, together. That's what I call a bagel. That's a closed group of people talking. You can't get in there. That's very difficult and awkward to get into. But if you see a group of people where their shoulders are more to the side and they're kind of talking like if this was a person and my shoulder was here, that's a croissant. And you can walk into croissants all day long. Okay. I have people after my keynotes who have emailed me and said, I successfully entered a croissant last night. Jimmy says you can see my hands. Okay, awesome. Jimmy says you can see my hands. So bagel versus croissant, that's super easy to remember. Another thing that's easy to remember about going to networking events is just talk to the person who's not talking to anybody. They're probably an introvert who feels uncomfortable, and you going over and talking to them is going to make their day. So talk to people who aren't talking to anybody else and look for bagels versus croissants. 4 rules of the handshake real quick, because it's been a long time since people have done handshakes like regularly. There's 4 rules. The rules are firm, dry, solid, no more than 3 seconds. That's it. Firm, dry, solid, no more than 3 seconds. You are not allowed to have a dead fish handshake. You are not allowed to have a moist handshake. Nobody even likes me saying that word, moist, 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 moist. Like everybody's like, oh my God, Julie, stop saying it. Stop saying moist. Nobody wants to think it. Nobody wants to feel it. So no dead fish, no moist, no wrestling, like no aggressive handshakes. And then no handshakes that actually don't give your full hand. Like you just give it this part of your hand. That's really rude. So firm, dry, solid, no more than 3 seconds. Remembering names. Dale Carnegie said the sweetest, most important sound in any language is the sound of a person's own name. Remembering names shows respect to the other person. It shows that you sat back and took note of who they are and remembered their name. It is a huge sign of respect. So you are no longer, if you are the kind of person who's bad at remembering names, you are no longer allowed to be bad at remembering names, because I'm going to give you some tricks to remembering names. And the first one is, it's going to sound really remedial. The first one is just be prepared to hear that other person's name. And you're like, what, Julie? The first thing you do when you meet somebody is you start saying your own name in your head, like, because you want to make sure your name comes out okay. It's been your name since you're an itty bitty baby. Like, it's going to come out okay. You know your own name. So, but what happens is you're saying your name in your head, and then they say their name, and then you say your name, and then you're like, oh, shit. I never even heard their name. What is their name? Oh my God, what is their name? What is their name? And now you're completely taken out of the conversation. Like your brain's trying to remember their name instead of being focused on actually have a conversation with that person. So be prepared for the name. The second one is, and I think this is really important, repeat their name before you say their own your own name. So if I had just met Maria and Maria said, "Hi, my name is Maria," I would say, "Oh, Maria, it's so nice to meet you. My name is Julie." This serves a couple of purposes. One, repeating it allows me to remember it, and it also allows me to make sure that I got their name right. Because I got to be honest, there's a very small difference between the name Julie and the name Julia. But guess what? I hate the name Julia. It is not my name. And as people email me and say Julia or July, sometimes they say July, which is like July. I'm like, do you not like May, June, July? Do you not? Okay, I digress. But I hate the name Julia. So if somebody says that, like, I want them to get my name right. So repeating somebody's name shows, number one, respect, because you are trying to make sure you get your name right. Now, the third trick is to make a name association. So everybody on here is sort of we were having this conversation about making cassette tapes prior to the event. And so everybody who was a child of the 80s and 90s understands Downtown Julie Brown, the VJ from MTV. So that's my name association that I have to deal with. But can you make a name association for the people that you meet? Can you tie their name into somebody else you know with the same name? So you're like, okay, just like so and so. Can you think of a name association like Downtown Julie Brown? Like any way to our minds love rhymes to help us remember. So can you think of a way to do that? And then the fourth one would be to simply say their name sometime during the conversation or when you exit the conversation. Maria, it was so great to meet you. I'm going to email you tomorrow. So you've said their name out loud a couple of times and made that association. 80% of building and maintaining relationships, I'm going to say it louder for the people in the back. 80% of building and maintaining relationships is simply following up. And you know what? People suck at it, because they think it's the other person's job. So you go to an event, you go to this event, you meet somebody, you wait for the other person to follow up with you. Why? It's because we're so afraid of rejection and all that shit, and it's human nature. Take it upon yourself. Say, I'm going to be the person who follows up with everybody. Don't wait for the other person to follow up with you. 80% of building and maintaining relationships is simply following up, and people fail to do it, which is why maybe on your list of people, you have people that you haven't talked to in 5 years. Be great at follow-up and crush your friggin' competition. Okay, the fifth one is LinkedIn. And I say LinkedIn over other social media platforms because LinkedIn is business to business. It's a way to enhance your personal brand, reach a greater audience, and to be seen in a time where it's really hard to be seen. I have people who every day say to me, I see you everywhere. No, you don't. I haven't left my office. You see me on LinkedIn. And because I have so many different things that I control the narrative of on LinkedIn, you think you see me everywhere. But I haven't been anywhere since March 2020. 46% of the social media traffic, business to business companies, business companies comes from LinkedIn. So if your company or you are spending your time on Instagram looking for this business to business traffic, you're missing the boat because it's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn responsible for 80% of business to business leads from social media. And I can attest to that. As a professional speaker, I get my leads from a lot of different places. I get it from my book. I get it from my podcast, but they all go to LinkedIn to check me out. And that's where they reach out to me, is on LinkedIn. This is where you determine what you want to be known for. What you want to be known for is part of your reputation. It's part of your networking, because if somebody says, hey, do you know Julie Brown? And they don't, what are they going to do? They're going to Google me. The first thing that's going to come up is my website. The second is going to be my LinkedIn profile. It's what I put on here, what I want to be known for, what I want people to think about me. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is that mix of who are you and what do you do. So for me, like my title, my headline, my job title, keynote speaker, MC, author, host of This Shit Works podcast, networking coach, sought after business development strategist. That's what do I do? Wine snob, reggae music lover, will travel for donuts. That's part of who I am. So I make sure that I put that all in there. Why? Because I want to stand out. Because if you're just saying, oh, business development manager, director of business development for XYZ company, big friggin' deal. That's what all the other BD people's titles say. How are you going to stand out? How are you going to make people want to say, I want to know that person? You can also personalize your URL. So when you sign up for LinkedIn, you get this like gobbledygook of numbers and letters for your profile. You can go in and make your own profile. So mine is when people are saying, I'm like, oh, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm Julie Brown BD. My profile is Julie Brown BD. Yours can be whatever you want it to be. Just change your profile so it's more personalized. You can also do a little intro if you can like record a little intro and say, hey, this is Julie. I'm a BD person, like blah, blah, blah. Can't wait to meet you. You can record a little intro for people when they get to your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is not, it's not Facebook. It's not Instagram. It's not a popularity contest. You really want LinkedIn to be the visual representation of your actual network, which means do not willy-nilly send out emails that send out connection requests that say, I want to connect with you. I want to join your whatever that I don't even know I want to join your network on LinkedIn. I cannot tell you how many of these I get a day, and I ignore every single one of them because it flies in the face of everything I teach. Like this whole getting to know you. I want to know you. I want to like you. I want to trust you before I want, I want to, before I would even want to care what you're doing. And so these blanket ones that are sent to me, I just ignore them. Again, on your bio, write a bio that says these are the problems I solve, but at the bottom put like fun stuff like me, dog mom, skier, world traveler, tequila enthusiast, wine snob, mountain biker, marathon runner, lover of ghost stories and horror movies, and true crime podcast listener. Again, the donuts come back in because I love donuts. We'll travel long distances for donuts. Everything you put on LinkedIn will get seen. This is just a couple of examples of the different things you can do. I'm a guest lecturer at Wentworth in the professional practice. I'm a one-trick pony, so I teach networking to Wentworth students. So I put that up there when I'm guesting. I put up bloopers from my podcast. When I win awards or get recognized, I put that up there too. And just so you can see, like, 3,300 views, 1,900 views, 4,000 views. These things get seen. This is why everybody says to me, I see you everywhere. Again, you don't see me everywhere. I haven't gone anywhere. Engagement on LinkedIn is up 55% since the start of the pandemic, and it's not going down. So what is your LinkedIn strategy, not just for networking, but for being known for what you want to be known for? So the untapped potential is you get to define what you want to be known for on LinkedIn and use it to your advantage. So I don't think I actually have to say this slide again. So I'm just going to go over it. I get asked a lot, when can I ask for business? Where is there a magic number of how many times I see people or have done something with people or time, length of time where I can say, hey, I want to work together. And the truth is there actually is some statistics around this. 2% of people will determine on the first time they meet you, no effing way am I going to work with that person. Or that's the kind of person I want to work with. But 3% will decide on the second contact, 4 on the third contact, 10% by the fourth contact, but 81% of people, it takes 5 solid interactions with you to determine if you are the kind of person that they would do business with or refer business to. And most people quit. Most people who are like checking boxes, keeping score, this is when they quit. They quit before all that magic happens because they're not building relationships with integrity. They're not doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because they're being pressured by their company. They're doing it because they don't even like the other person. They're just building a relationship to try to get work with them. The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. And I have this thing that I call tomato versus radish. So I have a garden and I live in Melrose. I have a garden, 4 raised beds. And every May, the first week of May, I plant my entire garden. I get like the really good soil, which has it's like shrimp shit and other like biomatter and everything is really good. It's really expensive. And I put it all into the 4 beds. And then I plant everything at the same time. So I plant the radishes, the eggplants, the peppers, the tomatoes, everything all at the same time. They get the same sunlight, they get the same nutrients in the soil, they get the same amount of water. But you know what happens? 2 weeks after I plant the radishes, I have radishes and I can eat them. I don't pick that radish, walk it over to the tomato plant and say, okay, you piece of shit tomato, where are you? Because you know what? Tomato gonna tomato. A tomato takes 95 days to produce one tomato, the first tomato. It's the same with business. You cannot bully people into doing work with you. Every client is going to take its own time to determine if they have work for you, if the timing is right for them, if they know you and like you and trust you. So you're going to, in your business development, you're going to have some radishes and you're going to have some tomatoes. And you have to be okay with the length of time for each. Now, at the beginning of this, I talked about jumping off the Victoria Falls Bridge, which I did, which was super fun. What they don't tell you about jumping off the bridge is that the scariest part of jumping off the bridge is actually not jumping, for me, was actually not jumping off of the bridge. It was being hauled back up to the bridge. So they pull you back up like this on this pulley system. And then they drag your body attached to another person over this like a barrier. And then what you have to do, if you can see, I don't know if you can see my blue dot, you have to climb up the bridge afterwards. You are shaking from adrenaline. Like you can't stop shaking. And now you have to climb up a bridge. This was the scariest part of this entire episode for me. I got up. My husband was too scared to do it, so he just took pictures. I could barely function. Thank God there's a bar at the end of that bridge. So I'm in Zimbabwe right now, and I'm walking back over to Zambia, which is funny. You need your passport with you to jump off the bridge because half of it's in one country and half of it's in the other. And so I walked straight to the bar. I ordered a glass of Chardonnay, and I was shaking so hard I spilled it everywhere. I couldn't even drink it. So next time you think like, this is super scary, I can't do this, I'm not sure I want to reach back out to this person, I don't know if I can do this, you can do it. Nothing is as scary as what I did on nothing in business is as scary as this. You can do this. It's super easy. I swear to God, like I have so much fun doing it. I wouldn't want to do any other job. And I know you do BD because you wouldn't want to do any other job either. And so most of you know me. This is me. This is my book. This is my YouTube channel. This is my Instagram. This is my podcast. I'm going to come out of full screen mode so I can see you in the chat and answer any questions before we get to networking. Did I do it right? Am I back?
Great job, Julie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Great job. We did get a couple questions in the chat, so I figured I'd bring those out now. So the first one is, what are the dopamine-inducing questions?
Oh, okay. So you make them up. Honestly, you look at your list and say, okay, so what does my list have on it? Do you own a Peloton? Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Do you love to travel? What's your favorite thing to eat? Like, do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? Like, are you binging anything? And then you look at that and say, how can I create a question out of all of these things on my list? So that would be, so for I love the travel one because it's really universal. So I would say, what was the last vacation you took before COVID? That is a great question. And I get so many insights. So for me, the last trip I took before COVID, and it was during COVID, I was in France skiing the French Alps because I'm bougie like that. I was in France. Oh God, Sirius just like telling me, oh, here's France, COVID-19 on the web. So like, that's a super fun story to tell. And so I'm sure some other people have other stories, and that sort of like, oh my God, like that kind of thing is when dopamine's flowing. So take your list and say, how can I craft a question out of this thing on my list?
Perfect. Next question is, what suggestions do you have for selecting the best organizations? And also, how many is too many?
Okay. There aren't how many is too many in the sense of you can belong to as many organizations as you want, but you can only give your time in a committee or board capacity to a couple. So I would say the way to determine is look at the organization and say, is this organization the kind of place where I can meet peers and potential clients, where their programs are programs in which I have the opportunity to grow and learn? Their networking events are their networking events opportunities for me to meet other people and expand my network? And is the organization, does it represent my values? Is it diverse enough? Like, does it, like, what does its board look like? So that's what I would say about that. And then out of those organizations that you decide to join and attend events, pick two. I would say two, because other than that, like, you only have so much time. Pick two to say, okay, these are the ones that most highly rank on my questions. I'm going to ask if I can join committees at these organizations.
Perfect. Next up was, what's your Peloton name?
Mrs. Julie Brown, MRSJULIEBROWN. Try to catch me.
I almost shared it without your consent, but I figured I would wait until.
No, you can put it in if there's a chat, put it in the chat, Mrs. Julie Brown. Yep.
Okay. So is there a technique to breaking into the bagel for the bagel and croissant?
Well, you don't break into a bagel. You leave bagels alone.
Okay. So you see
Because
them, you walk away.
Those are the tight ones. Those are everybody's together. The thing for breaking into a croissant is it's open. So generally croissants they already know each other really well. They're just catching up, or they work at the same office and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we have to do this. So think of going into a croissant as, I'm doing these people a favor. Okay. So when I go into a croissant, I'll say something to the effect of, hi, I don't know anybody here. Do you mind if I join your conversation? Or you can do the whole eavesdropping thing too, like walk by a croissant and be like, oh my God, they just said, oh my God, I wasn't eavesdropping, but I just heard you mention this. And like you can do the whole eavesdropping thing. That works really well. Like, do not worry about going into croissants in any way, because they're asking for it. Their body language is asking for it.
They're open. Yep.
Yeah.
So this one, I think, was more looking for your comment. It says, I find that when you put personal likes on LinkedIn, you break down professionalism.
Personal link. I don't put
personal likes on LinkedIn. So I think it was saying like sharing fun facts, which again, I'm not sure if this is a question or a statement. If the person who put it in the chat has a clarification, feel free.
Yeah, that would be great.
On your behalf.
I don't think that in your bio putting something about yourself is, it's not like I'm really into BDSM. Like, I'm putting I will travel for donuts, like I'm not putting anything political. I'm not putting anything religious. I'm not putting anything untoward. I'm just putting things about me that are fun and people can, like, there's this one person who's like, I'm a taco aficionado. And I was like, I already want to meet that girl, because like, there's nothing better than Taco Tuesday and a couple of margaritas, Yeah. If we are not allowed to be ourselves in our professions, we're not doing it right. If we are not allowed to have a personality and be ourselves, that I feel I couldn't work in that environment. I just couldn't.
Yep, I would agree. All right, last question is, where in France is your favorite place to go skiing?
Well, so I was there. So Val d'Isere is my favorite place because that's the only place I've been so far. I will say, so Val d'Isere, we went in March of 2020, and it snowed 12 inches a day. When we were there Saturday to Saturday, it snowed 12 inches a day. And the way, it's not like skiing in the Americas. It is very much there's pieced, on pieced, and then there's off pieced. And there's like hardly like in America, we're very much like, these are the trails and these are the woods. But in Valdezir, at least, it was like, this is the mountain and this is where we don't come and get you. Like, and there's like no like demarcation about it. So there was, over that 7 days, 8 days that I was there, I was like, there was a couple of times where I was like, oh, so this is the hill I die on. Like, but I love, oh my God, it was the most amount of snow I've ever seen in my life.
Amazing. Does anyone else have any other questions for Julie?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. All right, I think that's it.
Okay.
Hand it back. Awesome.
Well, fantastic. I was trying to pay attention, but I was laughing a lot. So thanks a lot for that, Julie. as I slightly have my brandy here. Amazing. I took quite a few notes. I actually made a couple of modifications to my my LinkedIn title. I saw someone posted in there about, I think that comment was really about that when you're adding personal stuff. Just so everybody knows, I am not a personal person on LinkedIn or on social media. I'm actually professional, but I do like the fact that I can add things that I'm passionate about from a personal standpoint that does elicit an opportunity to connect with people that, one of my biggest things is child hunger. So I added that because that is huge. It's got nothing to do with what I do, but it's definitely a great icebreaker and a great opportunity to find others that feel that passion about it. So I love that. So I immediately add that. So thank you for that tip.
Yeah.
So I guess Guy's here to do some Guy stuff. First of all, Guy Cleveland. Guy first name, Cleveland last name.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Not Guy from Cleveland.
Something like that.
Guy
I don't
Cleveland.
know. Julie, bravo. Great talk today. Good inspiration. I've been looking forward to this talk for
Told
weeks
you were
now.
getting the full Monty today.
That's it. But look, couple of quick announcements. Julie kind of showed us how to do some networking, and we have coming up in February 24th. Don't hesitate. Sign up now. We have a good follow-up to Julie's talk. It's Donna Schwartz, and Donna is with us today, and she's going to talk about storytelling. And I think we all know from, if you do business development, that storytelling comes into play, as in Julie just did. Actually, I'm still shaking from you jumping off that bridge. I need a Chardonnay right now. But dude, look on our website, February 24th, Donna Schwartz will come in. Her title of her talk is Storytelling for Business, Demonstrating Your Brand Promises with Impactful Narratives. So please sign up for that. It will be a really great talk. Also, May 2nd is our next golf event. We are already doing planning, so we're looking for sponsors. It's back at Rockville Links. So if you have any type of interest or want to get involved, please reach out to me. My final comment is, if you're not a member of BD Pros and you want to sign up, if you're from the Boston area, you want to sign up for the Boston chapter, reach out to Julie, reach out to Maria. They both are the ones that are starting that chapter. For New York, reach me, reach out to Gary. I think Millie might be on the call today, but we'll talk to you. We'll talk you through it, and don't be shy. So that's all I have. Jimmy, do you want to, Julie, any final comments before we go to the networking portion?
No, I mean, I would just say, if anybody has any questions or you want to connect with me, number one, on LinkedIn, say you saw me here, or just send me an email, no, I know my own email. Hold on. Julie@juliebrownbd.com. I'm happy to answer any questions if you even want to just email me or chat. Okay. But I'll be in the networking, so.
Yep, I don't have anything else to say. I'll just say thank you again. This has been recorded. So if you were just more or less focusing on what Julie had to say, there will be a replay sent out. I'm not sure when, maybe in the next couple of days, so you can kind of revisit this portion here. The conversations that you had at the tables are not recorded, just what you saw here. So there's definitely a lot of jewels here. There's things that I definitely want to do as well. So I'll be watching the recording. So thank you, Julie, for that. And we'll see you guys at the floor. Remember, move around a bit. Don't stay at one spot. We want you to meet other people. We got Boston in the house. We got New York in the house. Who knows what else we have in the house? But meet some more people, move around, and just do like the 2-minute rule, like the 5-second rule without dropping the food. All right. So we'll see you in the conversation mode. Thank you again, guys, and thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.